That was a shocking moment when in 8 of March in 2026 Jay Opetaia suddenly became a champion of Zuffa boxing, an Australian-born fighter, who won his title in the fight with Mary's Breedis, defended his IBF cruiserweight belt a lot of times, collected big stadiums, suddenly signed with Zuffa boxing, and started to perform in a small garage for an unclear title. The same happened with fighters like Conor Benn or Shakur Stevenson. A lot of fans and experts can't understand this thing. Why top boxers are leaving top promotions. Why they are signing with just born companies. And they are becoming their champions. In 2022 Jay Opetaia became an IBF cruiserweight champion when he defeated Mary's Breedis. Despite that he was an undefeated fighter, he was almost invisible boxer from world boxing's point of view. Therefore, he went more as a filler. But in that fight, he shocked the world. Because for the first time, he showed that Breedis' time is gone. This is a new generation of fighter. But when he finally became a champion, he was not a main event fighter on the big stages. He was invited in Riyadh Season's undercards when they appeared. Even the rematch in the co-main event of Ring of Fire, where fought Alexander Usyk versus Tyson Fury for the first time for the Undisputed Championship. The first fight since 1999. Here Jay Opetaia was in the co-main event. But what happened next? He started to fight in Australia, on a very local events, made especially for the local fighters. Of course the country wants their hero, but this is a very big figure in boxing. Therefore, he must fight at least once a year in Saudi Arabia or in United States, where fought Alexander Usyk versus Tyson Fury for the first time for the Undisputed Championship, even when he already became a champion. The same for George Kambosos. To be in the main event only in Australia means less money, less fame, less popularity. It was even almost done the deal of moving Jay Opetaia in heavyweight to fight with Derek Chisora. But then happened this thing with Zuffa. There are for different belts in boxing: WBC, WBO, WBA, and IBF. But these boxing councils are not making their own events for their belt. The promoters are making it. Anybody can fight for a champion's title. If the World Boxing Super Series was created to make a Grand Prix where the winner will be an undisputed champion. In a lot of cases, a lot of complete no-names fought for a title. Michael Eifert was a #1 challenger from IBF's line. Nobody knows him. And he fought for all Dmitry Bivol's titles. The man who was an undisputed champion. At the same time when David Benavidez was frozen in the super middleweight, and decided to move up in light heavyweight because Canelo Alvarez didn't want to accept the fight. And David was not Bivol's next opponent. That's why we received a lot of boxing matches where is only one fighter. The second one is simply brought to be killed. Then appeared UFC. They decided to make their own roster, their own rankings, and their own belt. That's why they became very popular. Because they collected all top MMA fighters. Their roster is the strongest of modern days. And they are making a champions fight between two top-ranked fighters. They decided to repeat the same trick in boxing. That's how Zuffa boxing appeared on the stage. Right from the beginning, they signed up a lot of top fighters. Because Dana White, a president of UFC, is under Turki Al-Sheikh, the guy who is making Riyadh Season. He was the first man in boxing who decided to copy UFC's model. We're fighting best versus best. That's how appeared the Day of Reckoning, where he collected a lot of superstars. Right before him, a typical fighting card was a main event, and a weak undercard full of no-names. Jay Opetaia also was brought to fight there, because he was a rising superstar. After a huge success of UFC's, Dana White decided to make a boxing event, with Turkey's help, who already has a big roster. That's how the first fight under Zuffa boxing was made. Canelo Alvarez versus Terence Crawford, where Terence Crawford became the first triple undisputed champion. But then they decided to go forward and make UFC events. But in boxing, Turki Al-Sheikh, who is an owner of Sailor, the company which is making Riyadh Season. And of course he is a minister of entertainment of Saudi Arabia. He started to invest a lot of money in partnership with Dana White. That's how they decided to make an other one event. But everybody was surprised when they made it in Meta Apex Arena. Since 2020, there are happening a half of UFC events, with a very weak fighting card. They decided to take a lot of superstars and make him a fight right there. Conor Benn, who made 2 big fights with Chris Eubank Jr., was signed with Zuffa. Eddie Hearn was shocked. Everybody was shocked. Jay Opetaia was also under Eddie Hearn's promotion matchroom. They started to work together after the fight Opetaia Breedis won. This was the promoter who started to give him a lot of big fights. He even promoted their second fight with Breedis. But then suddenly happened something strange. Opetaia started to fight on small home arenas, against a lot of no-names, being an IBF champion. Of course you can say that the cruiserweight category is the most unpopular category in boxing. That's why Super Series was created. Eddie Hearn wished to make him an undisputed champion, and then move up and make a super fight with Alexander Usyk. But something weird happened in their relationships, because Collar Sorland said that Jay Opetaia is moving up and is going to fight with Derek Chisora, and suddenly appeared the news that he is coming into Zuffa to fight for their title. On the paper, that was a great idea, because Zuffa's idea is to ignore all 4 main belts, collect all strong fighters in their roster, and use only the ring rankings. Turki Al-Sheikh is controlling that journal, and of course he is controlling Riyadh season. Therefore, it will be very easy to make Alexander Usyk versus Jay Opetaia, because both are fighting under Riyadh season. But the reality was different, because Jay Opetaia was not only stripped of his IBF title, he fought in the same garage where are making UFC events. Almost no crowd. The picture is awful, and everything looks like a low-budget club event. Jay Opetaia was in the main event. He fought with a no-name Brandon Glanton. Everybody understands that this fighter was brought to be killed and make Jay Opetaia a champion. And then he will defend his belt, for example, against David Benavidez. That thing could work if that fight was somewhere on the big arena, but nobody interested to watch it in the small garage. Therefore, it is even worse than he fought in Australia, despite that the money is big. That's how the great UFC's model idea was catastrophically ruined, because that is already Zuffa Boxing 6, and still no big event as they are making it at least on T-Mobile Arena, despite that the owner is the same. Conor Benn, who was also signed with Zuffa, made a fight with Regis Prograis. It was an undercard of Tyson Fury's return. Now there is a logic question. Is that deal good for Jay Opetaia or bad? On the paper, everything looked beautiful. Of course, Australia is a beautiful country, but the heat of boxing world is United States, now Saudi Arabia, and of course England. Jay Opetaia could be a worldwide superstar, to bring more boxing stars in Australia. Exactly the same as George Kambosos fought to big fights in Australia with Devin Haney. But the sad reality is that Zuffa is not allowing him to fight on the big stage. Everybody is laughing how they are making their events. They are already planning a new fighting card, and that is again in Meta Apex. No T-Mobile Arena. No Madison Square Garden. No Wembley. Means that next Jay's fight is going to be again in that garage. Therefore, the belt is losing its price. This company is not recognizing 4 major belts. Means that he will never be a champion under this promotion. Ryan Garcia is now going to fight with Conor Benn, but his contract is weird. It looks like that he signed more with Saylor, then with Zuffa, and he is fighting for a WBC belt. According to the rumors, he is now going to fight with Noel Mikaelian, and this fighter is a current WBC champion. Therefore, what was made under Zuffa Boxing is already not working properly, and Zuffa is already losing their active. Jay Opetaia can be a very big boxing superstar, the fighter who won his title being an underdog. He is still undefeated. He could be a great face of the boxing company, which could really make a revolution, by collecting a very strong roster, by making great promotions for the fight. There will not be the situations when the champion is fighting against a no-name, or freezing the division, and the stadiums could be very big. But this strategy is already showing that this company will not survive. For Turkey, it is not reasonable to invest a lot of money. Therefore, he is carefully outputs Jay Opetaia and not to fight in small garages. That is know the level as the maid in Event on Netflix.